And we are live. That is right. We are doing another live. I don't even know how many that is this week. Three, two, something like that. We normally don't do lives, but today we are going live to talk about this weigh-in between Kavaliauskas and Ortiz, and who do I think will win. So, first off, let's talk about the challenger, Kavaliauskas, aka Mean Machine. He weighed in at 146.6, and Ortiz weighed in at 147 on the dot. However, when you saw them at the weigh-in, in my opinion, Kavaliauskas is a much bigger guy, like a lot bigger. And you got to understand, he carries a lot more muscle, 80% water, which means you have a lot of room to dehydrate, a lot of room to cut weight. And Ortiz is more thin built, not as much muscle. So I would assume come fight night, Kavaliauskas is going to be significantly heavier than Ortiz, even though Ortiz weighed in a half a pound more than Kavaliauskas. So I think this is going to make for a good fight. What's going on, Ronald? How you doing? It's going to make for a very good fight. There are a lot of haters out there for Bud Crawford that want to see Kavaliauskas lose, and they want to see him lose badly. They know that Kavaliauskas dropped Terrence Crawford, and they want Vergil Ortiz to spark him. They want Vergil Ortiz to make Mean Machine look very bad, amateurish at best, so that they can use that as ammunition against Bud. However, I think this is going to backfire. I think Kavaliauskas is going to come out here, put in that work, and show how good Bud Crawford really is by how badly he beats up on Vergil Ortiz. That's just my opinion. I don't think there's anything that Ortiz can do that's going to really cause Kavaliauskas any trouble. We'll get into that in just a minute. Let me double check to make sure my sound is working correctly, and then we'll move on. Oh, yes, that is my voice. Who? Okay, so what I want to do too is I want to pull this over so I can read the comments as they come, when they come, in case there's any I have to approve. So, getting back to this fight, we have to go off their last fights. We know that Vergil Ortiz got in there with Maurice Hooker, who Maurice Hooker was coming up from 140 pounds, super lightweight or junior welterweight, whatever you want to call it, for his first fight at 147. And we also know that Ramirez stopped him at 140 pounds. However, Ortiz has been made out to be this devastating puncher, this deadly puncher, this guy who only gets knockouts. But when he fought Hooker, he didn't knock him out. Hooker quit the fight because he broke his hand. I believe it was in the 7th round he broke his hand. I would have to have somebody confirm that. But if my memory serves correct, it was in the 7th round that Maurice Hooker broke his hand, and that is why the fight stopped. Now, early on in that fight, Ortiz was looking very good. However, Maurice Hooker started to adjust to him. And as he was adjusting to him, I saw Ortiz take some big shots against the smaller 140-pound fighter and even hurt him. I appreciate that, Ronald. I can do this too. I'm going to drop this if you want to get on, but I'm going to finish this intro before we start opening up the panel. So, I saw Maurice Hooker hurt Vergil Ortiz more than one time. And again, this is a 140-pound fighter moving up. He said, Casemiro. We're not there yet. We still on Ortiz versus Kavaliauskas. But we could talk about that. Now, Kavaliauskas' last fight was against Michael Zuski, and I believe he stopped him in the 8th round, if I remember correctly. So you're looking at one round apart in their last fights when Kavaliauskas stopped Zuski and when Maurice Hooker quit against Vergil Ortiz. Outside of that, if you go another fight back, we all know Vargas lost to Ortiz, and we also know that Kavaliauskas lost to Terrence Crawford. But again, when he bounced back from that loss, fought Zuski, he won by TKO. A knockout is what he got on his record. And looked impressive doing it. So here's what I look at. Experience experience leads to skills. Skills pays the bills, okay? And Vergil Ortiz has never fought the competition that Kavaliauskas has fought, in my opinion. In my opinion, Kavaliauskas has fought the two most ducked fighters at the 147-pound division, and that is Terrence Crawford and Ray Robinson. He got a draw with Ray Robinson. It's argued both ways. Some people felt Ray beat him. Other people felt that Kavaliauskas should have won that fight. Felt like it was politics involved. But Kavaliauskas has fought the two most ducked fighters at the welterweight division, 147. Ray Robinson is so ducked that I believe he's moving up to 154 because no other 147-pound fighters will actually fight him. So again, when you look at their resume, when you look at their experience, when you look at their quality of opposition, Kavaliauskas beats him. We also know this about Kavaliauskas. He's a counterpuncher. We know this about Ortiz. He likes to come forward. He likes to add pressure. And we've seen far too many times that pressure fighters always lose 90% of the time to counterpunchers. Now, I also look at if Maurice Hooker could hurt Ortiz, Kavaliauskas, in my opinion, has a much harder shot, a much more thudding shot, a much more devastating shot. And I am not convinced that Ortiz can survive. I'm not convinced. I think his pressure that he adds is going to be his worst enemy in this fight. And the only way that he's going to beat Kavaliauskas is if he boxes and moves away from him. Boxes off the back foot, picks his shots, hits him with hard shots, and gets out. But if he stays in the pocket, especially early, Kavaliauskas, in my opinion, will pick him apart, will beat him. If you've been listening and haven't done it yet, hit the thumbs up. And if you really like it, subscribe to the channel because it helps me out a lot. Now, with that being said, we're going to do two things. I am going to drop the link to see who other people think are going to win this fight. I am also going to pour myself some water if I can figure out where I put my water jug. And in the meantime, I'll be right back. Let me read these comments real fast. Ortiz is formidable, but I feel Egidijus is more technical inside encounters. PBC really needs that extension from Fox. They are trying to protect their fighters. Zero. That's why they wanted Canelo to sign a long-term deal. What's going on, Dead Game Boxing? How you doing? You know, it's crazy. I was just looking at your channel the other day, Dead Game. Just the other day. Like yesterday. Just randomly thought about you and went to your channel. For those who do not know, and before I go get myself some water, we're going to do this like I always do. When people who step into the channel with channels, we always post them. We always advertise. And Ronald has a channel too. I've posted his channel multiple times. But we're going to do this for Dead Game. I'm going to drop the link in just a second. And then I'm going to go grab some water and we can start up some discussion about who people feel like is going to win this fight. Why am I not finding what is going on here? Let me go to my channel. Let me go to my community. Channels. Where's Dead Game Boxing? Dead Game, I know I'm subscribed to your channel. I don't know why it didn't come up. So now I've got to go down this big list of people I'm sub to find you. So I can post your channel for people to check out. Where is it? There you are. Boom. Gotcha. All right. We're about to link Dead Game's channel in the chat. What's going on, Hablo? So this is Dead Game Boxing's channel right here. Ronald Hablo. I've posted y'all's channel multiple times and I will post them before the stream ends. Again, I'm about to drop the link to anybody who wants to join, discuss this fight. Here's the link. All you got to do is click it and we can discuss this fight. And then we can move on to Casemiro and the Mummy. Because Rigondeaux, he looks like a corpse. He looks like a walking corpse now. He's so dried up, so old. But anyways, I'll be right back. I just got to find my water jug, pour it in this big old cup, and we will start talking boxing. All right, I am back, and I am back with a gallon water jug that I've almost finished. For those who don't know, I've been trying my best to get back in shape, and I am trying my damnedest to drink 128 ounces of water a day. If you don't know, that is a gallon. Whew, these muscles desire water like a plant. All right, let's see.
Yo, good, Tony.
Those LDBC channels, LOL, they sound like the most delusional people in the world. I don't know what you mean by that comment right there because you have to like point to a reference point of how they sound delusional. Because there's a lot of LDBC channels. Some I'm cool with, some I'm not. A lot of them know who I am, and I have nothing against the LDBC. You know, they support the fighters that they support. You know what I mean? So I don't know. You're gonna have to give me a reference, then I can either agree or disagree with you on the basis of what they said. What's going on, Ronald? How you doing?
What's good, Tony? What's good? I just want to say you right. Like there are a few that I remember, like you being on, and they treated you with respect and let you get your points across. So you're right about that about LBC channels. But I don't see those channels no more. I just see like channels that's kind of like stick to one type of situation about get well Earl or some shit like. Nah, I remember that synergy from Crawford. I was bashing him like 4 or 5 years ago. Like I just see like the double standards. Like they not holding Spence to accountable like right now. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, man, it's far in between though, far in between. But I just wanted to come on and say what's up.
And I do agree with that. I do agree with that. That some of these channels who have made up rumors about other fighters are not keeping that same energy or holding the Earl Spence to the same standards. Because let's put it like this: if the roles were reversed, if the scenario was different, let's say it was Terrence Crawford versus Earl Spence Jr., and he pulled out the same way with the same eye injury, there would be all types of rumors about him ducking all over the place. But because it's Earl Spence Jr., those rumors aren't really there. However, you could say the other side of boxing are making all types of rumors about how Earl Spence ducked. So I don't know. It's a two-way street to me. Like it is what it is. I don't really get involved in the everybody versus the LDBC or the LDBC versus everybody because, like I said, a lot of people in the LDBC have supported me, and some of them don't like me. So again, I base every single person. I don't base them off of groups, and I don't base groups off of individual peoples. I just base everything off that individual that we speak of. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. I hear you very clearly, and I agree with you 100%. You know, and think about it like this though, like if like put it like this, if Earl Spence is like like really like this person who's supposed to defend his belt at 147 for a long period of time, and he already got one break like 2 years ago from the accident, and now he's getting another break only after fighting Danny Garcia. So to me, I feel like he should be able to have to give up the belts for making two mistakes as far as
Well,
for the
I don't
division.
know. I don't know. I don't know if I fully agree with that because here's the thing: the accident was his mistake. Clearly, he was drinking and driving. He caused that. That was an outcome of what he did. However, his eye getting injured, he really couldn't control that. You know what I mean? Like whether it was a headbutt, a punch, an elbow could have hit him. I don't know what led to the eye injury, but that's uncontrollable. You know what I mean? That's just a freak accident. I don't even understand why, like a week out from the fight, he would even be sparring. Like normally, when you get close to a fight, you quit sparring because you don't want to risk not even getting injured, but let's just say you get cut over your eye. Well, now the fight's off because you got to get stitches. So a lot of fighters don't even fight in the last couple of weeks leading up to the fight because they don't want to risk injuries like what happened to Earl Spence Jr. So to me, it doesn't make sense why he was even sparring.
You know what? And on all that note, like yeah, I agree, but like think about it, like you saying that he's not like in control of like how he gets hit or how he gets out. I feel like he's in control of whatever he do if he's in training. You see what I'm saying? Like if you're in training, how do you allow yourself to get scraped in the eyeball like that? Like you evidently wasn't thinking right. You see what I'm saying? Like if you are an athlete and a professional person, You make sure you like do what you're only supposed to do within your comfort zone. So like I feel like he just kind of like dropped the ball on that because how the fuck do you scrape your eyeball?
Well, again, I mean, we can agree to disagree. I don't really think that's something that you could have prevented. Like it's just something that can happen. Like it happens to fighters in fights. It happens to fighters in sparring. It could happen to somebody in
Has,
a
has,
street
has, it,
fight.
has it happened to you, Tony's review?
No, it never did. Thank goodness.
Okay, there you go. There you go then.
Yeah,
Real
but you
talk.
know, Earl Spence Jr. has put in a lot more rounds than I put in. He I don't know what his amateur record is, but I'd imagine that he had more fights in the amateurs than me than he has professional fights. Then you got to think of all the hundreds of rounds that go with that in sparring. So while it never happened to me, and it may have never happened to me, he still has put in a lot more work than I did. So the more you do something, the more you're at risk of getting hurt from it.
Well, you know what? I played professional sports too, and I know what it takes to be an athlete. And I just feel like Earl Spence dropped the ball on how he got hurt during a big fight. So it's a duck to me.
And that's the thing about it. You are entitled to your opinion, and nobody can tell you you're wrong because that's how you feel. You know what I mean? There's no individual that can control how you feel, how you think. Me personally, I think he got injured, and if the injury is real and he would have went through with the fight, he could have ended up blind, and that would have been his last fight that he ever had. And 9 times out of 10, he wouldn't even have been able to finish the fight. He would have went out on a TKO loss due to not being able to see and probably never fought again. So that's my opinion, but you don't have to believe what I believe. That's the beauty of it. We are all individuals with our own mindsets. What's going on, Hablo? I see you in the chat.
What's good,
Um,
Hablo type? Come get your
let me
O
see.
back.
They stripped Pacquiao in a pandemic, but was okay when Thurman was keeping it. Yeah, Thurman was injured for way longer than Pacquiao. Thurman went what over 2 years. I
Oh
think
yeah.
Thurman went
Oh
over two
yeah.
years
Oh
and
yeah.
held on to the
Yeah,
belt
he
with
went
no
over 2 years.
fights.
But see, that's the thing though. Like Derman, like did it like only like one time, all in one abundance. Spence has did it twice, and he only
No, no,
fought
no,
one
no, no, no,
time.
no, no, no. He was talking about how the WBA stripped Manny Pacquiao, and gave his belt to Ugas, but yet they did not strip Keith Thurman whenever he was going through all the injuries. That's what the chat I was reading, not Earl Spitz.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Like Keith Thurman, he had that 2 year like where he kept his belt, but Spence had like this situation like twice within 3 years. I would say. So I feel like that's the reason why they should make this like short term. Like meaning they should make him like be able to have to fight before 2020 21's out, or he got to get stripped because
Well,
he held up the division for a long period of time twice.
well,
You
you
understand
never
what I'm
know. You never know. Like we're in August. I think they said his surgery recovery time was only like 2 weeks to a month. So you figure, let's just say by September he's all right. So that would give him October, November, December. So he could fight in December. He could do a 2 month camp starting in October, November, and then fight in December, and still maybe get a fight by the end of the year. And who knows? Who
saying?
knows?
Yep,
If he did that, maybe
yep.
Pacquiao would fight one more time because we're still 4 months
That's
away. And I
very
think he's just gonna. I think Pacquiao is just gonna beat Ugas with ease. I don't even think he's gonna take a lot of damage in this fight. So I think he would be ready to go soon after. Let me read these chats real fast, and then you can comment on that. He said, Hablo said, what if it was a surgery he needed eventually, and he just pulled the card when he needed to, though? Well, I, I I don't think he pulled the card when he needed to because if it was a surgery that he had already needed that he knew about, he would not have been going without that surgery because a torn retina will always lead to a detached retina. It will always lead to it. It will always lead to it, and especially if
Okay,
you're getting
okay,
punched in
okay,
the
okay.
face.
Yeah.
So I don't think this was an injury that he was holding on to like use like a get out of jail free card like we're playing Monopoly. You know what I mean? I think this is something that, if it is real, it happened. Like, he wouldn't have been going through sparring and fights with Danny Garcia if his eye was already messed up. He would have been cashed in that card, because this isn't the type of injury that you could just cash in whenever you want. It's one that once it's caught, it has to get fixed as soon as possible. Or, like I said, it could be a lifelong injury that you never get over. You could go blind. So,
Tony, can I ask you this real quick, Tony, before
yeah,
you
go
keep
ahead.
like I feel like this is like a give Spence a free get out of jail like card or something. Think about it like this: the man had can't. He had all these people saying that he's in the best shape of his life. He's such like a machine, and you tell me that you don't sit there and think that's suspect that the camp didn't know this man. I have fucking problems. Let's keep it a buck right now.
I do not know, because the thing about it is, you can get a tear in your retina and not know it's torn. You can get a micro tear. Like, you, just because you have a tear in your retina doesn't mean that you actually know it's there. Normally, most
So
people,
you
and
giving
this is
him a
where,
pass? So you giving him a pass for not for saying that he's like a well trained athlete and he's all in the grit
no,
and
no, no,
shit.
no,
We
no,
give
no.
him that a
This is what
pass.
I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. I'm just talking about the injury itself. Okay, I'm not talking about whether I'm giving him a pass or whatever. I've already said that I believe that he was hurt. I believe that he got the surgery done. Now, people like you and many other people believe it's a duck, believe it's all bullshit, believe he never got the surgery. I don't think he would have went all the way through all the sparring that he did just to bail out the fight unless he was really hurt. That's just me personally, but I could be wrong. But what I'm trying to say is this: when it comes to the torn retina, you normally do not know you have it. And normally, if the tear is not bad, it can self-repair by not being aggravated. It doesn't always need surgery. However, when you're in a sport that causes blows to the head and into the eye in turn, then that tear will get worse. The only time that you're going to know that you have a problem is when you start getting blurred vision, when it starts hurting really bad, or you lose your vision. When it detaches, that's when you figure out what's wrong, or it's very close to doing it. However, from the way they're making it sound, or what was released, is that the doctors found out whenever he was doing his medical examinations before the fight, the pre-fight medical examinations, where they shined the light in his eye, they saw that he had a torn retina. So again, if that is true, then he had no business fighting, because he could have jeopardized his whole career on this fight. And it's not worth it when you're not that old. It's not worth, and I don't even care if you're Pacquiao's age. Even if you were 42 years old, it's not worth losing an eye to have a
Okay,
fight. It's
okay,
just not
Tony.
worth it.
Okay, Tony. Tony, this is not really a debate, but this is more like me explaining to you that like if you're in a sport you love and you have all these people around you saying that you're in the top shape and all of these different things, like if you like a boxer and you don't bring that communication to your coach or your coach don't bring that communication back to you, to me that's saying that you don't really have like a great team. We shouldn't have.
But
I feel like if the doctor
what I,
come out and say like, and Derek James come out and say explain exactly when this might happen, then to me that makes more sense. It's called them being transparent to the public and say, okay, we didn't know nothing about it. Like you just explained it in depth about how at the end he didn't know he had a tear. He went to the doctor and found out. So to me, that's like a little bit more like you just giving him benefit of the doubt, or I don't know if you heard the doctor say that, but Derek James or somebody in his camp needs to say what really happened or how they think it came about and why the fight is off. You got two belts and you've been off like 2-3 years and now you fucking back and you ain't fighting nobody and you claim you dropped off. Fans don't want to hear that shit, bro. I'm gonna tell you straight up, fans
and you're
don't want to
right.
hear
You
that
are
shit.
very correct. I am giving him the benefit of the doubt. I am 1000% giving Earl Spence the benefit of the doubt, because my philosophy is this in life. This is how I always am. I never look at anybody as a liar until I catch them in a lie. So, in other words, you could tell me all this stuff and I will take you at face value. until I catch you in a lie. Now, me personally, I have not seen Earl Spence Jr. in the past get caught in a lie. And because I cannot say that this man is a liar, then therefore I will give him the benefit of the doubt that what he is saying is true.
Yo, sorry, I was talking about. Listening.
I'm gonna read these comments while you do that real fast.
All right.
Here we go. It's a lie. PBC really needs Spence to be undefeated for that extension. They don't want to take that risk. They didn't expect Pacquiao to look this good coming off of a 2-year layoff. I will agree. Pacquiao looks phenomenal. Looks phenomenal. He looks like he never quit boxing. Like Pacquiao was looking in a very good. He's looking better right now at 42 than he did at 40 when he went to fight Keith Thurman. Hablo says Thurman was allowed to keep the WBA super while Pacquiao got stripped. Got to think there's some connection between PBC and the WBA now. I agree with that, and I was agreeing with Ronald whenever he said that earlier, Hablo, that it makes no sense, and Pacquiao should have never got stripped. I didn't agree with it. The only way I would have agreed with Manny Pacquiao being placed as a champion in recess or stripped of his title would have been if the WBA mandated him to fight somebody and he didn't do it. But being that they never mandated a fight for Pacquiao, I thought it was ridiculous that he got stripped. Now I'm gonna keep reading these comments. PED wrote,
Tony, I want to say I got to get off it, man. And I appreciate you having me on. I got work early, but I appreciate you having me on, brother.
all right, well, I appreciate you stopping by. I'm gonna post your channel on your way out, and I always appreciate the support.
Good talk, bro.
Right back at you. Who y'all just heard on the mic was Ronald Finkley. Y'all can check him out right here. This is Ronald Finkley's channel. So if you're curious to hear what he thinks about various topics in boxing, go to his channel, check him out. You might like him. Don't forget, if you've been listening, hit the thumbs up and sub if you really like it. All right, let's get back to these comments. PD. I keep hearing Thurman is in amazing condition right now. Spence versus Thurman. I don't think he's going to fight. I don't think Earl Spence Jr. will ever fight Keith Thurman because of the history. Like Earl Spence says is that when he wanted to fight Keith Thurman would not give him a shot. So now he's never going to give Thurman a shot. So I highly doubt Spence would fight Thurman. No matter, even if Thurman looked in his worst condition and Spence knew he could beat him with ease, I don't think he's going to fight him because of the history between the two and how Earl Spence Jr. feels about Keith Thurman. So yeah, PD, I don't think that's going to happen. All right, Hobble, I'm going to read your comments. I'm going to clear out these comments real fast and then say what you want to say. But what I'm saying, actually, I don't need to read your comments because you're right here. Let's do this. It's funny how Pacquiao is about to break his own record of being the oldest welterweight champion. Yeah, he will. 42-year-old champion. Well, how old was Mayweather? Did Mayweather have the belt when he retired? Because didn't he retire from boxing at 42? I thought Mayweather's last fight was when he was 42 years old. And I thought he still had a title. So I'm not sure if Pacquiao would be considered older than him because I'm almost positive his last fight was when he was 42 years old. Somebody would have to fact check me on that, but I could have sworn Mayweather's last fight was when he was 42. Anyways, what's going on, Havilo? How you doing?
I'm good, bro. How are you?
Doing good. Just sitting back, drinking some water, talking boxing. You know, a normal day.
Nice. Well, I just wanted to come on real quick and clarify my position on it. And I'll probably make a video one of these days and just put it out there just for the record. I'm not saying that it's impossible that Errol Spence got a retinal tear in sparring for this particular fight and was unable to fulfill his obligation to participate in the fight. What I'm saying is that it is also possible, and it's pure speculation on my part, that there are always injuries that fighters have, as you know, as a person who does athletics. I have an ankle, for instance, that is injured that I could get surgery on. Some doctors would say I really need it. Other ones would say you could probably live without it for a couple years and see what happens. That in a situation where a guy like Errol Spence is up against Manny Pacquiao in the biggest fight of his life, he thinks he's going into it against a Pacquiao who is probably diminished and ring rusty after a couple years of not fighting, pandemic, blah, blah, blah. That he's getting this Pacquiao right at the right time for him, and that it's gonna be a passing of the torch, and I'm gonna go on to become the next big superstar in boxing, a la Pacquiao versus De La Hoya, let's say. But then you get into camp. Camp's not going well. You never know what could be going on. Mental problem. Maybe he has like some personal situation that we don't know about. I mean, none of us are in that camp in order to know the insider information. Things aren't going well. And then, your eye maybe, you get hit a few times in sparring and you start thinking like, yeah, that doctor did say, I should probably have a surgery on this. Let me go get that surgery and put this off for a minute, just so, I can feel more confident and more up to speed with where I need to be in order to fight a Manny Pacquiao. You feel me?
I hear what you're saying, but my only contention to that is that with the injury, if he really has the torn retina, is not the type of injury that you could fight through. Because if that retina tears,
I'm not saying it's necessarily a torn retina. I'm saying that it could be, let's say, some other eye related issue that would need an eye surgery. That, once you get an eye surgery, they're going to put a thing on your eye. You can say whatever ever you want, and the doctors, believe me, will say whatever whoever's paying them tells them to say. It's just like Michael Jackson's doctor said, look, the guy wanted this shit and I gave it to him. Like, it wasn't my fault. If it wasn't for me doing it, someone else would have done it, So I'm not saying it's necessarily a tear, but maybe it's some eye issue that he had that was something that could have waited or maybe couldn't have waited, but it was up in the air. He had several different opinions on it, and he just went ahead and got the surgery so he could postpone the fight to a later date.
I mean, it's a possibility that it could have been a different type of eye injury that he had. I mean, I can't say that that's not a possibility, but I guess you have to ask yourself, what would be the likelihoods and what would be the odds that he had some random eye injury that he could pose as a torn retina and still get surgery to make it look like he got surgery for a different injury? To me,
well, let's say that in the accident, one of his eyes was damaged to a certain degree that wasn't critical, right? And he was just going on like, all right, screw this, I don't need this surgery. It's just like me with my ankle. Like, I don't need it. I could probably play basketball tomorrow and be fine, but I also could probably hurt my ankle real bad and then really need the surgery. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, I understand what you're saying. It just like I said, it comes down to probability and likelihoods, and I don't know. Like, I really don't know. Like I was telling Ronald, I will give him the benefit of the doubt personally, and I've already admitted that I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I know a lot of people aren't, and that's why I have my one live stream about fanboys, you reap what you sow, because with all the rumors that had been made about other fighters, well, that leaves the door open for everybody to have theories like you do against Errol Spence. So I'm not against.
It's not against him. It's just logic, because the way my logic meter works is like, okay, I'm looking at the footage, the leaked footage, the rumors coming out of his camp that it's not going so well. Pacquiao, all the word I'm getting here in LA, and I know people at the wild card. I know, people all over the boxing scene out here. Like, they're saying Pacquiao's looking like Superman right now. That could have something to do with the Novada, or maybe it doesn't. But like, the rumors coming out of the Pacquiao camp were the opposite of what was coming out of Earl's camp. And I think that maybe that might have mentally affected him to the point where he would say, look, it's better off for my career in the long run. Of course, in the short term, he's going to lose out on a lot of money in this particular fight. But him being, undefeated and holding down that welterweight crown, for a couple more years, even if he fights Pacquiao in another year or something, or let's say Pacquiao has a tough fight with Ugas and takes some damage on, and he's not quite as formidable in the Spence fight, it just seems like it's not out of the realm of possibility. I'm not trying to claim that this is definitely a fact or I know anything or any insider information. This is pure speculation based on my own way of thinking and logic.
No, I understand. I understand what you're saying, and I understand where you're coming from. And like I said, what you were saying is a possibility. It's in fact, with the car wreck, it could be a very strong possibility because we don't know the full extent of what damages he actually, received from that wreck, from being ejected, from being drug across the concrete. I'm sure his body tumbled a few times, got flipped all over the place. I know they induced him into a coma because that was in a report. So that means he had swelling of the head, mainly the brain. That's why they would induce it to try to bring that swelling down before waking him back up. So I understand where you're coming from. It's just, and you could be 1,000% correct. It's just, again, I don't know any other way to say that. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, but I will say this. This is the biggest, if you're going to go on the conspiracy side, the biggest point that kind of makes you say, something seems fishy is the fact that Ugas
Maidana.
No. Yeah. Maidana, Ugas's opponent, who he was supposed to fight, got the same exact injury and pulled out too. Now,
on the same day.
On the same day, yes. That is highly improbable. Like the odds of that are so low that this is another reason why I can't get mad at people talking like you're talking.
But with Ugas, like, I saw his injury, like the little mouse that he had under his eye.
Right.
And depending on what style headgear you're wearing, as you know, there are many different styles. I've had it in sparring where, I could get hit in the same spot 20 times, and just this one time the headgear happens to be in that right position where it pinches your skin and you get like an irritation underneath. It's such a freak thing. Like, I'd taken many punches in the head with the headgear on and had no problem. Then someone hits me with some little punch and it just happens to pinch the skin the wrong way, and boom, I got like a black eye above my eye the next day.
Right.
So I don't know. His looked a little bit more legit to me just because they showed a picture of it without a patch on it. So I saw he did have a mouse under his eye. But as far as him having a torn retina, like, it's very tough to prove that. It's like saying that you have a backache. No one can prove that you don't have a backache or a shoulder problem.
A back or a neck, yeah.
Yeah, or like a sprain in your shoulder or something. There's like very little way to prove that. I guess you could show an MRI. Some people would say, like, what the hell is that? Like, no one knows how to read an MRI. Bro, what are we? Like medical professionals? No. So, like, I'm just saying that it just seemed convenient based on the facts surrounding it instead of just this particular thing, but going back to the leaked sparring footage, the rumors coming out that his camp wasn't going well, you know, his issues with alcohol, his having been in that horrible car accident. And believe me, dude, you know as well as I do. I know you're younger than me, but whenever you injure something, right, it's never quite the same after. This guy flew through a window going 100 miles an hour. That had to have some effect on him. I don't care who it is. It had to have some kind of effect on him. And he landed, obviously, on his teeth because he smashed both of his teeth. So that's a head impact right there. And then one of his eyes looked messed up. Maybe it was just a, you know, scratch on the eye or something on that eye, but maybe the other eye was internally damaged. You never know. I mean, it's hard to say, and it's, you know, of course, you wish the best for him and hope that he turns out to be okay. But it does, along with the Maidana being injured the same way, the same day, and pulling out just conveniently enough so that the Ugas and Pacquiao fight can happen, that all raises a big fat eyebrow for me.
And that is the one contention that I say is the most sus that I can't. There's nothing I can say to get around that portion of the same injury, same day, practically around the same time, like within a few hours. So,
maybe even in the same city.
Maybe even saw the same doctor. Like, so I agree with you. That is the one part that is very sus that you cannot deny how crazy.
All right, but where does logic take us from there, right? Let's say that it is sus, right? On both of their parts, but especially the fact that it was both of them on the same time at the same day. Think about this. Ugas has that WBA super. They didn't give it back to Manny, okay, which everyone kind of assumed that they were going to do, right?
Right.
I did. I thought Manny for sure would get it back.
I did too.
So he didn't, and now he's got this fight with the guy who has it. Now, the guy who has it, you know, is going to continue on with his career where it's unsure whether or not Pacquiao will go on past this fight, right? That's never a good thing for the guy who's saying that he might retire. Because a lot of times when a guy says he might retire, the judges tend to favor the other guy a little bit just because they know he's going to go on and, you know, they want to do what's best for the sport. I'm not saying it's right, but it does happen.
Yeah, it happens. Well, not just that. It happens a lot in boxing. And on top of that, you know, in close fights, the person who's at retirement age normally loses, even if they slightly edged it, only because it's a business and there's no money to be made with somebody who's not going to be in the business anymore. So therefore, they would favor the younger one. But here's the other thing I could say to you. Here's the other flip side.
Exactly my point. Well, let me just land that plane real quick.
Go ahead.
Let's just say Ugas were to get a decision, right, against Pacquiao. Let's say it's a close fight. They edge it for Ugas, right? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay. So then 3 of the 4 belts are there with the PBC. And that puts Spence in a good position because he could fight Ugas, probably beat him, get that 3rd belt, and then he's got 3 out of the 4 belts. Now he's in a better negotiating position if a Spence Crawford fight comes up, or even if a Spence Pacquiao fight comes up. It puts him closer to even money with Pacquiao in terms of negotiating power because here's a guy, Pacquiao. Yes, he's a legend. Yes, he's definitely going to go into the Hall of Fame. But maybe, the fact that Spence has 3 belts and he has none gives Spence a little extra bargaining power in the next negotiations. You feel me?
I hear what you're saying. I'm gonna read these comments real fast, and then I'm gonna hit the flip side to that coin real fast because we're gonna go down that rabbit hole. I'm just gonna flip it and let you hear another scenario that could have been the reason. Okay.
Yeah, I understand the other side, but I'll let you go ahead. Read your comments.
Yeah. So let's see. Pacquiao is already the oldest welterweight by beating Thurman. You are correct. I did look it up. So I thought Mayweather was 42 when he fought Conor McGregor. He was actually 40. If he was 38 when he fought Berto, because I knew he fought. I thought he was 40 when he fought Berto, but I guess he was 38. So that would have made him 40 when he retired from boxing in his last fight. Let me see. Ronald said, I hear you. Pac just a strict Filipino. I'm hoping Spence was cleared from the beginning. And how did he get eye injury and sparring? It happened before this. Check the doctor's report from accident. Spence is washed. This was PR, preconditioning. We got Rosclot in the building. I kind of skipped his comments. These Spence fans are crazy. Sup, Tony? Can't jump on with the fam. Holyfield versus. Oh man, that was a horrible fight. Valine, that big ass, tall ass, hairy ass dude, looked like an oversized boar. Perfect example. Holy won, but they thought Valine would sell. Yep, and then he got his ass.
Talking about Valuev.
Yeah, he got his ass whooped to David Hay. Regulator, what's going on? Moderator in the building. All right, so we're down here. So here's the flip side to it. Here's the other thing that could have happened. Spence got injured. Same eye injury. They could have went to Maidana and been like, look, Maidana, we need you to say that you have an injury so we can get Ugas in the fight, and we're going to pay you, in a sense, say step-aside money because we can't get Manny to fight anybody else. This is going to be a loss. So we have to get Manny Pacquiao to fight somebody. Now, the Ugas fight, they can somewhat sell because Ugas is holding Manny Pacquiao's rightful belt. So there's a little bit of a history to try to sell and salvage what they can for this fight. So to me, if anybody faked it, it would have been Maidana, who was paid off in the background so that Ugas could fight Pacquiao, because really, truthfully, that's the only person that they could put against Pacquiao in such short notice, who was already in training camp, that would still be able to sell because of the history of the super belt being stripped and taken from Pacquiao. So that's the flip side to the coin, that maybe it was Maidana that faked the injury and really Spence was injured.
All right, well, here's a third side. So this may be the first 3-sided coin ever.
A triangle coin.
Maybe Spence wanted out of the fight and they paid off Maidana to say he had that injury in order to, maybe he had a little mouse under his eye and it was convenient, but maybe it was really Spence that wanted out and they got Maidana to play ball.
That is also a part of the trifecta. That could be a possibility. It's really up in the air. Who knows? Like, Ross Clott said he agreed. He said, yep, seems like Maidana is the one who faked it. It's just the question of, why did he fake it? Did he fake it because Earl Spence was really injured? Or in your scenario, did he fake it because Earl Spence wanted
made him fake it? They made it impossible for him not to play ball by offering him some funds.
That mouse came from them tying Maidana to a chair and beating him in the face with a hammer.
The Maidanas don't get injured that easily, as far as I remember. You ever remember Marcos getting any facial damage in any fights? He had some rough fights too.
Not really. Adrian Broner, pre-Madonna Adrian Broner used to let his hands go. Broner hit him a lot, and he really didn't show any wear in that fight. So, yeah, I agree with you. He really didn't show a lot of wear and tear.
Yeah, I mean, it could be different between the two brothers, but I mean, the only evidence I have to go on is Marcos and the wars that he had with Victor Ortiz and various other people, Mayweather. He never looked all that damaged to me. He never really developed any eye swelling. Like, I don't know. Could be my brother and I don't look alike at all. So, it's anecdotal at best, but Marcos seems to hold up well, with damage.
I agree with that. I agree with that. I want to read this comment by Ross Clot because it's funny as shit. Spence getting an injury like that sparring means Manny was going to rearrange his veneers. No, not the fake teeth. Madonna was told to fake it and got money under the table. Madonna got schooled by garbage. You mean Devin Alexander? Because he wrote David Alexander, but I think he meant Devin.
Yeah, I don't think that Devin Alexander was garbage, and I don't think he got schooled. It was a close fight, but I think after that fight with Alexander was when Maidana switched trainers to Robert Garcia, and I did see a lot of improvement in Maidana's technique once he switched to Robert Garcia.
Well, Devin Alexander was never the same after he fought Porter, who in turn, before that, he fought Bradley. So after 2 fights of suffering 152 headbutts, you can never be the same from that. So that's what killed Devin Alexander's career. All them headbutts that hit him.
I think that, and also he had a bad habit of grunting every time he was going to punch, and that just like I know from sparring with people, like when they do that, like when the punch is coming.
You know who do that a lot? People who have a karate background. Like whenever they did karate, they always you
Yeah,
normally see that with people who transition from karate or taekwondo or take your pick over to boxing. They're notorious for doing that.
yeah, I think that's a bad habit. Trainers should discourage.
It's very hard. It's very hard when you grow up your whole life doing something. It's muscle memory because eventually you'll start doing it without meaning to.
Yeah, everyone has a plan until they get hit. Mike
He said
Tyson.
Bradley's punching technique was trash. I don't know how he was able to win fights with his head. His head. I told
With
you,
his
Rod
head,
Scott.
except for Marquez. Marquez, he did a good job of boxing Marquez.
Yeah, I like Bradley as like a commentator, but what I don't like about Bradley is he still believes he beat Pacquiao in the first fight. And I don't know how anybody, even including Bradley, could really believe that he won that first fight against Pacquiao.
I agree with you on that, and I disagree with you on the fact that you like him as a commentator.
Why? Why don't you like him?
I just think I don't know. To me, he's not a good commentator. He seems to be
Yeah,
biased a lot of the times. And
man, I like him because he always disagreed with Andre Ward, who tries to do the most like politically correct analysis for his company. Like, I like him. He always disagreeing with Ward.
but I think that's why he's there, though. That's why they have both of them because they know they're going to disagree. But and they had such different styles that obviously they're going to disagree.
The best boxing I think Bradley looked was after he got Teddy Atlas as his trainer.
The fireman thing. We're firemen. We run into the building. Everyone else is running out, and we run in. And it was like, I don't know. Teddy Atlas, I don't know.
I
I
think he's
thought
a
the
great
best.
trainer.
I thought his best win was, yeah, he's a great trainer, but I thought I'm sorry, not Maidana. Bradley's best win was against Marquez. That was a clear victory against someone who, was in the upper echelons of the pound for pound and all that.
Well, I mean, his win against Vargas was good because at the time Jesse was undefeated. Like I said, with Freddie Roach, he also
But that
knocked
doesn't
out.
age as well as the Marquez win, just because of what happened to Vargas after that.
Well, yeah, but I mean, he also knocked out Brandon Rios. That was the one that he had where he got the knockout with Teddy Atlas, which you don't really see Bradley getting knockouts like that. I'm trying to think. I mean, he beat Devin Alexander. That was a good win.
That was good. And also Lamont Peterson, when Lamont Peterson was Lamont Peterson.
And I forgot about that win. So yeah, I mean, he's got some decent wins on his record, but he shouldn't have the Manny win. And Marquez, I don't know. Marquez to me was never a real true welterweight. Like I don't think he belonged to 147 pounds.
Was the Bradley versus Marquez fight before or after the Pacquiao Marquez 4? I can't remember.
I don't remember. I remember he fought Marquez, beat him, and then he rematched Pacquiao and lost. But on the timeline, I don't remember when they fought.
Yeah, I'm just
I
trying
would
to
have
see
to
if
like
it
I would have
was.
to get on like Boxing Rec and look up the actual
Yeah,
date.
that's not worth it. Whatever. I just thought him beating Marquez was the most impressive welterweight, at least the most impressive welterweight fight that he had. Because Lamont Peterson and Devin Alexander were both at 140.
Right.
There was one other guy at 140 that he beat Bradley that was impressive, but I can't remember who it was right now.
I don't know. I remember Lamont. I remember Devin. I don't remember who else. I'm trying to think. I really don't know. Like his best wins to me that come to my mind is Brandon Rios, Jesse Vargas, Marquez. I mean, all the ones we talked about. Devin Alexander and Lamont Peterson. I can't really think of other big notable names that he beat.
Yeah.
I really can't off the top of my head. So you're gonna have to school me on that. Let's see what Ross Clyde.
Damn, Rascal's on fire in the chat.
He said Kendall Holt was Bradley's best win.
Yes, Kendall Holt. Yeah, that's the one.
Marquez is not Bradley's best win. Marquez too small at 147 and isn't strong like Manny. Marquez versus Manny is equal because they fought too much. I agree. Manny had no business fighting him 4 times. Lamont is is a punching bag. I almost read that wrong.
Now he is, but
Yeah, but not back then.
when Bradley fought him, he was definitely a legit contender at that time.
Look, Rosclaw. I cannot say whether Marquez was or was not on PEDs when he fought Manny in that 4 fight. All I can say is everybody knows it's normal to hit puberty at 40-something years old. It's normal to have acne from the back of your neck, behind your ears to your waist. Like that's normal.
Yeah, and then
that was a fight where
he's
he was
got.
drinking.
I mean, it doesn't help his case that he hired Memo Heredia because that guy's a genius at creating designer PEDs.
Who did you say?
Memo Heredia, the guy who was Marquez's strength and conditioning coach for I think the 3rd and 4th fight with Pacquiao, is a genius at coming up with new designer PEDs that are undetectable. He even said it in interviews. You just change one little molecule here or there, and it's not going to pop up on the test.
Right. I thought that was a different person, though. I was just trying to look it up.
No, Memo Heredia or Angel Heredia. He goes by various different names, but Heredia is usually one of them.
Right. I was trying to look up this other name, but I think you're right. I think you're right. Yeah, I can't. For some reason, I thought it was a guy named like something Garcia that was the
Nah,
one that had all
nah.
the PEDs.
I'm trying to think of who you might be thinking of, but I know that definitely for the fourth fight with Pacquiao was Memo Heredia or Angel Heredia. Uh,
Who did Floyd Mayweather hire? Was that the same guy before the Pacquiao fight?
that was Ariza. That was Pacquiao's former dude.
Nah, I could have sworn. Hold on. Let me. I'm gonna actually type this in because I'm curious.
Pacquiao and Ariza had a falling out eventually, and I believe that for the Mayweather Pacquiao fight, that Mayweather had Alex Ariza, who was Pacquiao's former strength and conditioning coach, in his corner.
Yeah, he definitely had Alex, but I could have sworn he brought in somebody else that was like notorious for PEDs.
The most notorious guys for PEDs are, Victor Conte, obviously, and I think Memo Heredia is the best. And that's who Marquez had.
And we saw what Marquez looked like. I can't find what I'm looking for. Oh, these happened so long ago. Like a lot of these articles aren't even on the internet anymore that you can find. Fuck.
Yeah. Anyway, we went off on a tangent, but back to Spence. I still think it's
So
possible
I,
that
I I was right. I was right. So Hernandez Garcia, who used to go by the name Angel Heredia.
Heredia. Yeah,
So it's the same guy. It's the
that's the
same
same
guy.
guy. That's the
Yeah,
same
they're
guy.
one and the same. So that's what messed up my head. But I'm reading this article right
He
here.
changed his name a few times because what happened was he was involved in a big scandal with the Olympic athletes, giving them PEDs, getting caught, and he got snitched on, and then I think he actually might have done some jail time, and then was sort of, excommunicated from the Olympic stuff, and then
Right.
became like a professional boxing, strength and conditioning coach. And then that was the same guy that Marquez hired when he fought Pacquiao. I thought he had him in the third and fourth fight, if I'm
This
not
one right here
mistaken.
is just an article. This is from USA Today. It's just an article about the fourth fight. So I don't know if he had him for the third one, but he
I think
definitely
he
had him
had him
for the
for
fourth
both.
fight.
If I remember correctly, it was both. But I think in the third fight, he was like, I'm just going to outbox Pacquiao and show I can beat him on the scorecards. And then it didn't go his way. And then in the fourth fight, it was just like, okay, I got to knock this guy out.
It also says that Alex Ariza, Manny's trainer, was good friends with him.
He probably learned a lot from Memo.
Yeah, they said they were real good friends.
But Memo is probably one of the world's foremost experts at knowing how to, like, okay, some people get caught with stupid drugs, I call them. Like, you look at Big Baby Miller, and he had, what did he have? Like nandrolone,
hmm
whatchamacallit, testosterone, and the third one that creates more red blood cells, which is like EPD or E something.
EPO.
EPO. There you go. He had those three all in his system, and to me, like, that's the dumb way. If you pay enough money to the right guy, like a Memo Heredia, he knows how to take testosterone and change one little molecule where the test doesn't detect it. You know what I'm saying? And he said in interviews many times, like, all you have to do is switch one little thing. That's why the juicing is always one step ahead of the testing.
Right. Well, and that's the thing about it, man. It's good to know a chemist if you're in sports. It's very good to know a chemist, and that's exactly what he was. Um, this is where me and Black like different opinions because I like to use her a lot. Marion Jones, Olympic track runner, over 250 tests for the Olympics, and the Olympic drug testing is amongst the strictest, and she beat 250 tests before they caught her once. I feel like testing is unfair to people who don't cheat because you're going to have people who cheat, who hire people like that get away with cheating. I think they should just do away with testing, and it's just an even playing field. Do whatever the fuck you want to do.
Yeah, I'm not that in favor of that as for boxing in particular, just because I feel like it's such a dangerous sport in the first place that, the more, fair that it could be, the better. Like, you could have somebody like, let's just say, I don't know, boxer X that does everything the natural way, and boxer Y, who's not as good, but he's got a member heredia in his corner. Like, is it fair for boxer Y to beat boxer X? I don't think so. But, I think that it's a slippery slope when you say everyone should just be able to do whatever they want, because what you're saying is that at that point, everybody needs to take PEDs. Because
Well,
if you don't and I am, then you're at a disadvantage.
but here's the thing. Here's the thing about it, all right? Boxer X is more likely to get hurt by Boxer Y because of the stuff Boxer Y is on. However, if Boxer X was on the same stuff as Boxer Y, then he's less likely to get injured. He's less likely to get hurt because the playing field is even. That's my point. That if you have one dude who's
But
on
but
stuff
that
cheating,
scenario that you just described depends on boxer X disclosing exactly what he's taking to boxer Y,
no, but that's not the point. That's not the point of what I'm saying. The point
so
is
that they can
if
take the
both
exact same
guys,
thing.
no. The point of what I'm saying is if both guys are juicing on whatever they're juicing on, right? Both guys are less likely to get hurt than when you have some guy who's doing nothing fighting a guy who is juicing. The guy who is not is now more likely to get hurt.
But what I'm saying is that unless that the boxer who is juicing is disclosing what he's using, that the other guy may not be okay. Let's say both guys are cheating to a certain degree, right?
Right.
Let's say boxer X is just taking clenbuterol to cut weight, and boxer Y is taking nandrolone and testosterone and EPO. Okay. I still think, even though boxer X is taking clenbuterol to cut weight, that the guy who's taking the nandrolone and all that testosterone and EPO is going to have an advantage. So it's a slippery slope. It's very tough unless there was full disclosure. Like, if you're if you just took testing out of the picture, right? There's no more testing, right? No more testing at all. And you could take whatever you want. Okay, someone still could come in with an advantage because one guy might be taking, salts to, cut weight, and another guy might be taking testosterone, which is going to give you more energy, more muscle mass, and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I'm not really in favor of just letting the chips fall where they may, because unless everyone has to disclose it.
But here's the thing. in your first scenario where one guy was on just clenbuterol, right? And the other guy was on the nandrolone, EPO, and testosterone, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Still, even in that scenario, by the guy, fighter X, being on clenbuterol, he's still closer to making it fair than he was without clenbuterol to begin with. So it still narrowed the gap. Even though he may not be at an advantage, he's still closer than he would be on nothing.
Yeah, of course. Like, yeah, it would give him somewhat of an advantage based on, you know, the fact that it's easier for him to cut weight and get down to weight,
And
make
the
weight.
thing too that you got to understand too is there's a lot of diminishing returns when it comes to PEDs because you can only take so much before what improvements you get are negligible. It's going to be very little. So in other words, let's say you're on 500 milligrams of testosterone, right? And you have a
Right.
person who's on 1,000. So he's on double the amount. However, the difference in between the two, when you actually do a panel on them and see what the testosterone levels are going to be negligible. Yes, the guy who's on double is going to be more, but the human body at some point is only going to be able to create so much,
Right.
whether
So
it's synthetic or
let's say
natural.
the guy who's taking 1,000 milligrams has been taking it for 10 years and his body's more used to it. And the guy who's taking 500 is only just started. The 500 guy is going to have more of a noticeable increase in strength and everything that goes along with it than the guy who's taking 1,000. So, I mean, I agree. It becomes, I think it just muddies the waters even more when you allow it like that. Like, if you allowed it,
Again, my whole thing is, and I have to
if
say,
you allow it and there's disclosure, then okay. But if you just
but you know,
allow
the
it,
guys are still they're still not going to disclose everything they're on. They might disclose one or two things and that's it. But they might be on 15 different PEDs, but only tell you 2 or 3 of them. So even if you do full disclosure where you don't get in trouble, they're still not going to fully disclose. Like that's just it's just the way people are. But the point is, when you're talking about millions and millions and millions of dollars, these dudes are not as clean as a lot of people think they are
you
when
sound
that
like
much
Carl
money is on the
Sagan right
line.
now.
What's that?
Billions. You sound like Carl Sagan. Billions.
What's up,
and
y'all?
billions of dollars.
What's going on, Ross Clark?
No. I just want to jump on. What's up, Haplo? I just want to jump on real quick. I think, Tony, was you trying to figure out that? I remember that the Angel Garcia, Memo Heredia, and it was another dude. They all used to work under Victor Conte, and Victor Conte was the mastermind at giving boxers not just boxers, athletes period PEDs and masking it really, really well. And there's a video on YouTube where Victor Conte literally made a steroid concoction within like 3 minutes, like straight up chemist. And I remember he talked about a video of during random testing, they can mask PEDs by diluting your giving you a blood transfusion, recycling your blood, your clean blood. So when you do a blood test, it'll come out non-readable. It won't come out negative or positive. It'll come out non-readable, and boom, you pass.
See, and that's my point, Ross Clark. So you have these testings, and then you have a guy like Victor, right, who gets involved with a fighter who hires him. So that dude is as dirty as can be. And the guy he's fighting doesn't have the same resources or doesn't know the same people. So he's clean. So in my opinion, when you put testing involved, it actually doesn't show who the best is, because a lot of these best fighters are hiring people like Victor and getting away with cheating, where the other guys are at a significant disadvantage because they're doing things the right way, even though it's really not the right way.
Yep. I always accuse Floyd of being that way. You know, when Floyd was doing the random testing against Mosley, there was rumors that Floyd Mayweather wasn't getting tested random. And then on the very day of the fight, they tried to test Mosley the day of the fight and not Floyd. Mosley said, "Man, y'all better get the F out of my room, out of my locker room. You guys not taking my blood today." I mean, it's that shady. And when you got money, bro, like Floyd and Manny Pacquiao and all these big stars, you can get away with a lot. These guys that are doing the testing and all that, they're not getting paid a lot of money. They're just drawing the blood.
That brings up a very good point, and that is with the testing and using these organizations like USADA and VADA, and not so much VADA, but USADA and other ones, that they issue TUEs, and they don't disclose that to the public. I made a video years ago that I thought was a pretty interesting idea. That was, they should put the TE ratio in the tail of the tape. So if someone's coming into a fight with a reach advantage, we get to see that, right? But if someone's coming in with a 4-to-1 TE ratio and the other guy's coming in with the 2-to-1 TE ratio, we never know. So perhaps it should be, if we go with Tony's idea and, they just let the chips fall where they may and let everyone juice, then, they should disclose exactly what they're using and post the TE ratio in the tail of the tape.
That's it. They'll do it. And then again, if they do that, it would let you know what their levels are at. But the other part to it that we haven't even discussed is when you've got these fighters who are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, now you have to wonder, well, what is the integrity of the employee who's testing them? What is the integrity of them? Could they be getting paid under the table to take some blood from a friend of theirs and just claim that it's that fighter's blood? Could the organization pop that fighter, but then that fighter just be like, "Oh, look, I'm gonna throw y'all $10 million underneath the table to keep this hush and say that I'm clean." You see what I'm saying? So even with testing that's done properly, there still comes to a lot of questions of how that could be cheated, even when they are popped.
Oh, bro, come on. I mean,
That's a fact.
You got a guy going to Floyd Mayweather's mansion. He's making $20,000 a year, walking around doing testing on people. And, Floyd's like, "Hey, what do you make a year?" 20 grand. "Oh, well, here's 20 grand. And, here's my friend, Johnny, who's going to, give you a sample." And, I think a lot of those guys would be tempted by that. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, makes me recall when Floyd had that test where they showed up and it was on 24/7 or whatever, all access, whatever it was at the time. And Floyd, the testing guy, showed up and Floyd had him sit there for like 2 or 3 hours and then gave him a piss sample that looked like orange juice. And you're just like, dude, I'd never seen no piss that looked like that before. I mean, it looked like straight, like Five Alive or like some kind of fucking juice. And, that came up negative. I was like, I mean, the TUE thing is the most disturbing to me, though, because, like, if it wasn't for what happened with the IV and Mayweather Pacquiao, we wouldn't know as much about TUEs as we know today, because no one disclosed the fact that Floyd had a TUE for a IV before the fight, and that Pacquiao was denied, a TUE for his shoulder thing. He wanted, I guess, a cortisone shot or whatever, but Floyd got some kind of IV drip. before the fight.
Xyloclane, something like
Yeah,
that.
xylocaine. I think that's what he injects in his fingers, but
Xylocane. Oh, okay.
yeah, but I mean, the TUE situation is incredibly problematic when it comes to.
Well, the point of what Floyd did is steroids in particular, right? They, depending on what type that you take, they get absorbed by your cell receptors. So in Floyd's case, you dilute the cell receptors by hitting them with an IV that's filled with vitamins, because that saline is going to take it straight to your cell receptors, and then they get clogged, they get diluted by the vitamins that sit on top of it. So therefore, when they go to draw it, all they're going to see is the vitamins and not actually what's inside of that cell receptor. That's why you would do that.
Right, and that's why a lot of people take epitestosterone when they're taking testosterone to decrease the disparity in the ratio, because the TE ratio is all about, testosterone to epitestosterone. So let's say you're on testosterone, then right before you get tested, you take a shot of epitestosterone and it decreases the ratio. It's not really telling you how much testosterone is in your system. It's just telling you the ratio between testosterone and epitestosterone. So if you get the right amount of epitestosterone injected into you, then you could come out with a TE ratio that looks pretty much normal, like a 2-to-1, 3-to-1, something like that. That's pretty much the average normal ratio. But that doesn't mean that you don't have a ton of fucking testosterone coursing through your fucking veins.
Yeah. And it also whenever they look at your free test levels, it lowers that too. So you might be running at 1,200 free test, and now you look like you're at 500 or 600. So it also gives an illusion of that too. I don't know. Like I said, my thing is this: if you can't stop it all, then you're putting people who try to do things the right way at a significant disadvantage, and you don't truly know who the best are when you have some of the supposed best that are allowed to cheat and get away with it. So the only way to make it fair is just don't fucking test them.
Yeah, I agree with that seriously, because, like I said, you could assume that Canelo was still on it. Like, let's assume that he's still on it. Billy Joe Saunders had no chance. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, he wasn't going to be. Imagine if they would let Billy Joe Saunders eat a couple of them steaks and run back the fight and see what happens.
Right. It'd be a whole different fight. You know what I'm saying? You guys remember when Mosley beat up Margarito, right? But he was working with Victor Conte for that fight.
That's funny.
Yeah, think about that one for a second.
Tell you, man, it's shady, man. Whenever money's involved, it gets real shady. It's just like it don't even go to professional sports. So when I was in college, right, I got accepted to the school I got accepted to, and I made the team. I made it. I could have played. However, I was ineligible because my GPA was high enough to where I didn't need an SAT to enroll. I never took my SAT or my ACTs, right? However, because I had a just right under a 4.0 grade point average, they allowed me to enroll without needing the SAT. What I did not know is that you cannot play NCAA sports without a SAT or ACT score. And what I also did not know is once you take your first college course, you can't take a SAT or ACT. So therefore, I could not play college ball. So, and I know from the point I'm getting to is from the other athletes on the team, not going to say any names, they used to tell me that the coaches would let them know when the random testings were coming. So they knew in advance, like 2 to 3 months in advance, when they were going to be tested.
Well, that's exactly what Memo Heredia said when they asked him, like, why do so many Olympic athletes get away with this? It's like, come on, we tell them when the testing is about to happen, and they know. I think they get one get out of jail free card where if they find out the testing's on the wrong day, they can be like, no, and then reschedule it. And I think that's why you have the cheating that you have. But I don't agree with you guys that we should just let the chips fall where they may. I think the solution to the problem is better testing. And for the testing people, like, do you ever see Catch Me If You Can? That movie with
No,
DiCaprio?
yeah, I know it was with DiCaprio where he was an airplane pilot, did the false checks. Nah, I never
Well, the
watched it.
main, yes, but in the end, what happens is the FBI hired him as the guy to make it foolproof, where the like you couldn't just fake a check like that. And like, what do you need to do to make it so someone can't just create fake checks and pass them off and all that stuff? In the end, he ended up creating and becoming a billionaire by creating a watermark system and everything else that stops people from doing what he did, in the end. So I think what the testing agencies need to do is hire some of these dudes that are like really good at, circumventing the testing, and allow them to assist in creating a system where they can't do that.
I mean, that could work, but there's always another motherfucker that comes along that's smarter than you, and they find out a new way to cheat what you've implemented. I'm sure there's still people who are getting away with fraud, just not how they used to, or at least not as many people that used to because of the watermarks and all of that. But I guarantee you there are at least one person out there who's still getting over on the system. So eventually somebody will be just as smart or smarter than the person who came up with all these constraints, and they'll beat it. And then you're in the same boat.
Well, in that case, they had the guy who was like the greatest check thief of all time. And, he basically told them, like, do this, and that. And, he made it. Of course, there's still fraud going on. I'm not saying like it couldn't happen. Someone's always going to figure out a way to skirt the system. But I think giving up and just saying like everyone can cheat and therefore it's not cheating is not the way to go, especially in a sport where people are punching each other in the head.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I think if people knew the real truth about who we consider all-time greats, I guarantee you a lot of them were on shit because that was before they were testing for anything. They didn't really start testing boxing until like the 90s. And then Mauricio's father said he didn't like doing the testing because when they tested guys, it made them not perform the same and the fans didn't like it. So that's why he really never did testing for his fights with the WBC. And that's Mauricio Suleiman's dad who said that. So again, you say that, but a lot of these great fighters from the past could have all been juicing, and nobody wants to discuss that. Nobody wants to talk about that because they're legends. But it's easy to pass a test that you never have to take, and they never took a test.
Well, I mean, the boxing commissions, before there was all this third-party testing, the boxing commissions did catch people cheating by doing whatever the regular testing was at the time. I mean, it wasn't up to the snuff of what we have now, but I mean, guys like, I don't know, James Toney got caught, various.
No. Let me ask you this. How many PED testings did Muhammad Ali have? How many did Joe Frazier have? How many did Sugar Ray Leonard have?
Well, I think
Hagler.
I'm pretty sure.
How many did Rocky Marciano
I'm pretty
have?
sure, and I've done a little bit of research on this, that those guys did take physical evaluations prior to their fights. So they were tested. Whether they were tested for the right things or not, I don't know.
So I'm
But if you
looking
go
right here.
if you go back further than that though, like if you go back to like the Sugar Ray Robinsons and the Jake LaMotta's and the those
Hey,
guys, Bobo Olsen, those guys, I don't think were being tested at all.
so I'm looking right here.
And things did exist that could have helped them back then.
Just listen to this. The first. So this tells you the first failed test ever in boxing was in 1995 for steroid testing. I'm trying to see the actual date when they first started testing, but I can guarantee you they were not testing for steroids in the 80s, the 70s, and back. I can guarantee you they were not. In fact, I do not believe they started steroid testing until the early 90s in boxing.
I seem to recall someone getting caught for steroids in the 80s, but I could be wrong about that.
No, I'm telling you, I'm reading it right here.
No, I'm saying what I
first
recall.
fighter ever was in 1995, and he was stripped of the IBF title. It was
Darius Mikulszewski.
France Botha.
Oh, Franz Botha, yeah.
The first fighter of note, well, it says of note, was France Botha.
Of note.
Yeah. So I had to read above. But I don't know.
I think there was someone in the 80s that got caught. But yeah, like you're saying, like, obviously the testing, that's what Memo Heredia said. He said the testing is always way behind the actual industry of creating these products that are performance enhancing, So, back then it was pretty simple. I mean, they say, there are people who say that the Nazis were using performance enhancing drugs in that Olympics under Hitler. He had them all on speed, and I don't doubt that.
Well, they're the ones that created steroids. Germany. It came out of the Nazis. That was it really wasn't intended to do what it intended to, like what it does. The intention behind it was just to make the soldiers mean. However, the byproduct of making them mean made them stronger, faster. Those were just pluses, but the whole reason why it was created was just to get people meaner, so that when they go to war, they would want to actually kill more. You know what I mean? You want a mean soldier. That was the thought process of why they came up with
the
it.
whole Blitzkrieg attack style was all fueled by this. I forget what they called it, but they had this pill that they would give the soldiers that would let them stay up for like 4 days at a time. It was meth. It was basically meth. So they would give the soldiers meth, and like they would run through a country in like 2 or 3 days and take over the whole country.
Yeah, man. Just a bunch of toothless meth heads on steroids out there.
Seriously.
But I don't know. Like I said, me personally, I just feel like it's a more fair playing field when there's no testing, because I know all the shady stuff that goes into it. And like I said, me and Black will disagree all day, because he's all about VADA testing, and I have no issues with VADA testing as long as it's done properly. But again,
the problem with it is the TUEs. But I tend to agree with him more than you on that, because if you just let the chips fall where they may, that may sound like, okay, now it's going to be fair because both you and I can take whatever we want, right? But what if you're taking something that's way more effective than what I'm taking, and I'm just trying to cut weight,
But I agree with you. But again, I have to say what I said earlier, that even though I may be at a significant advantage over you because you're just taking a weight cutting substance, you're still narrowing the gap by taking that more than you would if you wasn't on that at all. And
Agreed.
my whole
Agreed.
my whole
Agreed.
point is comes
But
full
if
circle to
what you're
this, Pablo.
taking, if you're taking is increasing your muscle mass, your fast twitch, fibers and all that kind of stuff, and I'm just taking like some water factors that are making me piss more and drop weight, like you're still at an advantage. I think
I
the
am. I agree.
solution that I agree with is more testing and not less.
I just I don't think more testing does anything, because it's just like the WBC, how they raised the clenbuterol levels for Canelo so that he was now within the threshold. You see what I'm saying? No more testing can help that. Like, if they're gonna raise the levels, it doesn't matter how much testing you do, because he
But
was once
see, with
illegal, now
that,
he's
at least
legal.
we know that they raised the levels and they had to come out with that publicly. But if they were to say no more testing, then you could do whatever, and you don't know what okay, here's where I would agree with you.
Either way, you don't know.
If they said testing, no testing, doesn't matter, but you have to disclose everything that you're taking and let the other team know so they can have the opportunity to take the same thing, then I would agree with no testing, because as long as you know what the other guy's taking, you could take the same thing, and then it's up to you whether you want to take it or not.
See, the problem with that is you get into the legality. Like, you can't legally take steroids without a prescription. So therefore, they would be incriminating themselves by disclosing what illegal substances they're putting in their body.
No, but
And
you're saying that testing wouldn't be a factor. You're allowed
no.
you're allowed to take whatever.
Well, no. What I'm saying is, you may be allowed to where, say, the sports doesn't care if you do it. However, the federal government still says that this thing in your body is illegal. It goes past sports. So if you're disclosing that you have all this illegal substance in your possession, then that's just waiting for your arrest to happen.
So
So nobody would disclose.
what you need in that case is a doctor who's willing to say that you need it. And every doctor is a human being. And this is the thing that people don't get with doctors. Doctors are just people. They need money too. And they're willing to take money from anybody. Look at Muhammad Ali. They cleared him to fight with Spinks and Holmes. So
the Holmes fight, what messed him up.
And Freddie Pacheco, who was the doctor that he had on staff, quit after the Frazier, the Thrilla in Manila. He was like, no, I ain't going to be a part of any more Ali fights because he's not right anymore. But yet he went to the Mayo Clinic, and the Mayo Clinic cleared him as being completely fine to fight for, Spinks and Foreman. Not Foreman, Spinks and
Larry
Holmes. Yeah. So, doctors clearing people, making sure they're okay. Doctors are people too. They get bought off. And, I don't know. I can't consciously be in favor of no testing or allowing guys to do whatever they want. Let's say, everything that they do is prescribed by a doctor, right? You can find a doc. I could find a doctor right now. I could call up a doctor. I know, because I know people who do it. I know doctors who will give me testosterone right now. If I go to their office, they'll give it to me. But I don't do it because I don't need it. But other people might do that,
Right, but my whole point still rests on this one fact. If me and you were to fight, okay, and I'm juiced out of my mind, and
You
you're
always
juiced
want
out,
to fight me. It's so funny.
Just hear the example.
I'm an
Just
old
hear the
man.
example. No, listen. If we're both juiced out of our mind, you are less likely to get hurt juiced out of your mind fighting me juiced out of my mind than you are you clean and me juiced out of my mind. Then you're more likely to get injured. And that's my issue. That is my issue.
Okay, but my point is, and the counterpoint to that is that if I'm allowed to take whatever I want and I decide to only take, uh, you know, let's say, damn it, what's that stuff called? Creatine. I take creatine and clenbuterol, and you're taking EPO, nandrolone, and D-ball. Like, obviously, you have the advantage still. So I don't think the letting anybody take whatever they want thing is a better solution than let's just improve the testing and make sure that we don't let people, or as much as possible, don't let people go in there with an unfair advantage.
I hear what you're saying, but like you said, a guy who's only getting paid $20,000 a year goes up into the mansion of a guy like Floyd Mayweather. He gonna look the other way, and the test results are gonna be skewed, and you don't really know. And I'm just using Mayweather as an example. I'm not saying he actually
Not only
did that.
that, he could have a TUE for something, and you could be like, all right, he has a TUE for testosterone, so I'm not going to report this.
Right. So again, I have to come full circle to I feel like when people are allowed to cheat and other people aren't, it's not fair. It is not fair to the people who choose not to cheat or who are not allowed to cheat while other people are allowed to cheat. However, when you take the restrictions off, then it's a fair playing field because you can do whatever you want, they can do whatever they want. At that point, it's your choice to whether you want to take something or not. But at the end of the day, you can't say that it wasn't fair because you chose to do whatever you chose to do. Whereas when there's testing, there is no choice for you if you don't, if you're not at the top of the level, if you're not the guy on the top of the totem pole who's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, you have no choice but to be clean. Whereas no testing, you have all the choices you want. You could do it clean or you could do it juice just like Canelo.
Well, I think even in the case where neither guy is bound by the current restrictions of testing, that the guy who is more financially stable will always have the advantage in your case because the guy who's more financially stable will always have, an advantage of who they can hire based on their finances than the guy that they're fighting against. So let's take just as an example, Floyd versus Robert Guerrero. Obviously, Floyd is a much more wealthy guy than Robert Guerrero. Now, let's say that there were no testing for that fight, and Floyd was able to do whatever he wanted, and Robert Guerrero was able to do whatever he wanted. That Floyd would still have an advantage because he's got the money to pay for a better group of PEDs for himself than Guerrero.
Yeah, but that's where I come back to is diminishing returns. It doesn't at a point it doesn't really make a difference how much you take because you're going to take so much that you start losing benefits. Whereas somebody who's taking less than you, while you may have a slight edge over them, it's just going to be a slight edge because the human body is only going to be able to absorb and produce is maximum. And then you got to think too that if we're strictly talking about testosterone or steroids, because testosterone is just synthetic steroids, it's just a different type. You have to maintain a certain weight. So if you're not a heavyweight, you can't just bombard yourself with this stuff, or you're gonna be too big to fight at welterweight. You're gonna be too big to be a lightweight. You're gonna grow out of it extremely quickly the more stuff you put in you. So by being in a weight class lighter than heavyweight, it's gonna really
Well,
significantly.
that all depends on what you're taking, because you might be taking stuff that'll cut your weight.
Yeah, but even like a steroid, say like Anavar that cuts you, or Winstraw V that cuts you, makes you real lean, it's still gonna start putting muscle on you if you take enough. Whether you're lean and body fat is irrelevant because the muscle is gonna increase, and as the muscle increase, you're gonna bust weight.
But PEDs don't just narrow themselves down to steroids.
No, I'm not
There
saying
are
they do.
there are PEDs that are just for cutting weight and just for, various different purposes, recovery, etc., that don't increase muscle mass. I'm not talking about steroids. I'm just saying PEDs.
Well, yeah, I mean,
So
like here's a non-steroid, and it doesn't even get the effects of something that's a steroid. Cocaine is probably one of the best things you could take to cut weight. That's why you see fighters periodically get caught on cocaine, because it's one of the best things you could take to cut weight. But that's still giving you a significant advantage because it makes you cutting weight easier than somebody else doing it. So you still have a training advantage, but it's not a steroid, to come back to your point.
right. So I mean, obviously this is a complicated issue. I just lean more towards the side of, making the testing better and not just allowing people to do whatever they want, because I think that's dangerous, first of all. Secondly, I think it's unfair still, even if you allow both sides to do whatever they want. One side isn't going to know what the other side is doing. So they're not going to be doing the exact same thing. So you've got that issue. You've got the money issue of being able to hire, better people than the other guy. Just like if you're Floyd and you're fighting Victor Ortiz, Robert Guerrero, guys who don't have as much money as you, you're going to be able to hire better experts. You're going to be able to take the right things. You're going to be able to, get TUEs, and maybe even pay off any testing guys that do happen to come around, where they're making 50 grand a year. You could just give them, like, what's 50 grand to Floyd? Really, honestly, nothing. So he could throw 50 grand at somebody and just be like, dude, just, my boy's going to piss for me right now. And you're going to fucking say it was me. And he's going to be like, all right, cool. I made it double my yearly salary. So, I mean, it's real tough, man. Like when you have the let the chips fall where they may attitude of, just let everybody take whatever they want type of thing. It still, to me, does not even out the playing field. You still got the richer guys that are at an advantage, the bigger stars that are at an advantage to the up and coming guys. And I think it's better personally for them to improve the testing than it is for them to just let the chips fall where they may.
Again, when people cheat, it's unfair. When cheating cannot happen, it's fair. That's my whole point. I understand what you're saying, but again, the
Degrees
issue
of cheating, though. Like,
the
okay,
issue,
if we're running the
the
100
issue is this,
meter,
Pablo. No, hold on. The issue is this: you could be cheating just as much as you would be if there was no testing. You could be taking the exact same shit, but because you have money, you pay the people off. Now you're allowed to be on everything you shouldn't be on because you paid them off. And the other person who doesn't have the money to pay them off has nothing in their system at all. Whereas if there was no testing, then both guys would at least have something in their system. The richer guy may have better quality, may have better stuff, may have access to more stuff. But because the other guy who doesn't have the same type of money, who can't pay off these crooked companies per se, hearsay that they are crooked, to be able to cheat like the guy with all the money is cheating, at least he can do something to make it a closer fight than it is if he's on nothing.
But then there's the flip side of that, where you've got the guy who's the richer guy who's been cheating for many years and has the best shit, and his body is more used to it and he doesn't get the benefits. Then he's going in against the guy who previously had nothing and now has something, and that guy's getting more benefit from, you know, whatever he's getting than the other guy. So I mean, it cuts both ways, and basically to me that tells me like the best solution to all this is no cheating and better testing.
But that's the problem. If I would agree with you every day of the week if you could have no cheating. It's just the fact that there will never be no cheating. That's the issue. They're going
Believe
to
it or not, Tony, there are guys out here on the YTBC. I'm not going to name names right now, but I'll tell you if you contact me, that say that cheating is impossible in boxing right now.
So it's so impossible to cheat
That's ridiculous to me.
Is very ridiculous. But my point was going to be this. It's so hard to cheat in boxing today that Casimera turned down a fight with Donaire because they would have had to test. He just said, no, I'm not going to test. And now he's fighting Ringendow instead of Donaire. So obviously he's cheating and been cheating in every single fight he's ever been in, but he's allowed to get away with it.
Yeah, I mean, look, the thing, I think it points to the fact that cheating in general is not a good thing, and that we should try to suppress that as much as possible. And
Yeah.
I think by opening the floodgates and saying that anybody can take whatever they want is a license to cheat even more than they're already cheating now.
I would agree if it was cheating, but it's not cheating if they're given a green light and a license. Then it's just called fair.
Well, I guess we agree to disagree once again.
I mean, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, I agree with your idea. I am in complete support of your idea. The idea of if we can make sure everybody was clean, they should all be clean. We should make sure that there's no such thing as a cheater, and cheaters should not be allowed to get through the cracks. I agree with that idea full-heartedly. It's just that I know that that's not a reality, and I know that that's not going to happen. So therefore, I don't agree with the testing.
And I would agree with what you're saying if the both sides of the equation were to disclose exactly what they were taking. But I think that that is a fallacy and will never happen. I think that no matter what, even if you said everything's legal, go ahead and just disclose whatever you're taking so the other side knows that you're on D-ball and EPO, and then, you know, they have the opportunity to either take it or not take it. I think plenty of people would still cheat in the sense of not disclosing everything that they're taking, and it might be even worse.
I don't know how it can get any worse than a world champion refusing to take a testing in an era of when testings are supposed to happen. You know what I mean? Like that to me in a testing era is about as bad as it
Well,
gets when the
I'll
world
tell you.
champion is saying,
I'll
no,
tell you.
no, I'm not getting tested.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you. It could get worse by them saying you don't have to test and you don't have to disclose what you're taking, and therefore it's a mystery in every fight who's taking what and what they're on. Now we've got guys who are juiced to the gills on different things. We don't know what they are. We have no idea. You know, the only way to really know anything would be to post the TE ratio and the tail of the tape. But even that doesn't tell you if someone's taking a weight cutting thing or, whatever else. What if they're
You know what they
smoking
should do?
weed?
You know what
And
they
that
should do?
helps
I'm
them.
gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna go with yours. You know what would be a very accurate way to find out if these people are really doing what they're doing? Whenever they get tested, they should have to be videotaped, 100% videotaped, so you can see where the blood's coming from. Then that person who takes the blood sample, that in itself should have to be videotaped. So pretty much 24-hour footage of the whole process to where a camera never leaves the sample, and then the results post still on camera. That might be the
But
only way.
even that is fallible because you had Mike Tyson with his whizzer, the fake penis with the fake urine in it.
Yeah,
They could have a video of that. That might look really real on video.
Well, I'm talking about a blood draw, not piss, but actual
But see,
drawing
the
blood
thing
out of
is with
their arm.
drawing blood, though, I agree with fighters that say, I don't want my blood drawn right before the fight because that does weaken you.
No, I agree, but you don't have to do it before the fight. You could do it 3 months out from the fight, 2 months out from the fight, a month out from the fight, and then after the fight. So there's
But
no
now
way
you're
of going
creating a schedule that they know that they can work around.
right, but again, it would be very hard to work around it if you're getting tested every single month because most of the stuff that's going to impact you the most has a half-life that lasts longer than a month.
Most of it.
Yeah, most of it, a majority of it. The major players that you would want to do are going to definitely be in your system more than a month. And I also believe that
But then, Tony, you got guys like Memo Heredia who know how to take one little molecule out, and that doesn't show up at all.
this is why testing is unfair to fighters who don't have connects like that. So again, we come back full circle to if you can't perfect it and people are going to fall through the cracks and cheat at the highest levels, then just don't test them and let it be fairer. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be equal. The scales are never going to be balanced, but they're going to be closer to being balanced than if you have cheaters cheating and people who are not allowed to cheat in the same way.
I disagree, and I will say that I think that if everyone is tested and the testing is solid, that no one can get away with cheating, then that's more equal than what you're saying.
Your own words, change one molecule, and now you pass.
That's why they need to hire guys like Memo Heredia to create the testing protocols.
That's if those type of guys want to help and go that route. They may not want to do that.
You got to make it worth their while.
They
make it worth their while.
Vada don't have pockets as deep as some of these fighters. Like, I don't know if they could make it worth the while of what these guys are getting paid to do all the cheating throughout the
I don't
various
think Vada
sports.
could. I don't think Vada necessarily could, but maybe. But some of the state commissions, they have pretty good money. They could hire some real strict dudes like that can't be bought off and offer them, the right kind of incentives to where, they won't allow someone like that's a huge fighter like a Canelo to get away with something. But the problem is, like, it's not just the commissions, it's also the sanctioning bodies, and there are sanctioning bodies that make more and more money based on like a Canelo winning titles and 10 different weight classes and all that shit, and they're willing to look the other way.
Man, they cheat so bad for Canelo. They let him create his own weight class, 155. He fought at 155 for so long. And now, if he fights Bivol, he's gonna have a 170-pound title that should be a 175-pound title.
But did you hear today that they said that the plant negotiations are close to being done? Seems like the whole Bivol thing was a pump fake.
That or the PBC is about to lose their Fox deal because all their big fights have fallen away, and the only way to save them is to give Canelo whatever the hell he wants.
Right. But my point is that it seems more likely today that we're going to get Canelo Plant at 168, and we don't have to worry about that catch weight. But I do agree that catch weights are bullshit. We have way too many weight classes for anyone to need a catch weight anymore. I understand that back in the day when there were like 8 weight classes and they were separated by, 15, 20 pounds. But as of today, like the only place I would allow a catch weight for me would be between cruiserweight and heavyweight. Because that's the biggest jump there is. And then the heavyweight could be 300 pounds, like Valuev, who you mentioned earlier. And a cruiserweight could be, under 200. So I'm not saying the catch weights are completely obsolete, but I'm saying they're mostly obsolete, especially in any weight class below 175. There should not be a catch weight, including 175, where Canelo's trying to, do a catch weight with Bivol. But then you have to recall that Floyd catch weighted Canelo. And, is Bivol...
I think it was 152, right?
Yeah, I believe so. And I believe that, also that Bivol is nowhere near the kind of star that Canelo was even back then when he fought Floyd. So, looking at it from Canelo's point of view, it's like, who's this guy to like say I can't get a catch weight? Like when I took a catch weight against Floyd. So I don't know. It's a tough.
Here's my issue.
Really tough.
My issue isn't so much the catch weight. My issue is a title being on the line at a catch weight at the higher weight. That's my issue. If they fight at 170,
but that's happened many times. And
but
you have to understand, like,
it's always been an issue for me.
What's the catch weight with Bivol and Canelo?
170.
Okay, so that's still within the light heavyweight weight limit, because it's not just 175.
I disagree with that. I disagree with that. Let me tell you why. I know it's anything. It's 169 to 175 is the official weight class.
However, it's 168.1 to 175.
Yes, but however, nobody who makes the weight is going to come in that light. They're all the lightest they're gonna come in on the scale is 174.
Why? There could be a guy who's like a speed guy who doesn't want to come in at 175.
Because boxing is not set up like that anymore. In other words, most fighters are overly tall for whatever weight class they fight at. These guys are really stretched out at all weight classes because they try to get them to be as tall and as small as possible for that weight class. So they want you longer. So therefore, if you're a guy who's say 5'10", they're trying to get you They can try to get you all the way down to lightweight because you're going to be a giant compared to the other guys who are natural 135-pound fighters. Like,
Well, to me, that's more of a function of day before weigh-ins than anything else. I've always thought that was a mistake, going a day before weigh-ins. I mean, if you go back far enough, guys used to weigh in the ring. They would have the scale in the ring. You would walk into the ring with whatever music or whatever you had and weigh in right there. To me, that's more fair. Like, to me, that's more of an even playing field than anything else that we're talking about.
I mean, the only problem that I see with weighing in the day of the fight, especially in the ring.
I mean, like right before the fight.
No. Yeah. I know they did. But the biggest issue is, even if you walk around at your natural body weight, like for instance, me, okay, I'm actually been cutting, but let's just say on a normal day where I'm at right now, I was all the way up to 240s. I've cut my weight down to about 226, right? But that doesn't mean that I'm going to be 226 at any given time. I might be 232, 234. I might wake up and be 224, 222. It's very hard to be whatever weight you fight at all the time. Like, even if it's your natural body weight's not going to be exact every single day. So I don't like weighing in.
Right, but when you're a fighter and you know that your purse depends on you making that weight, and you know you're going to have to weigh in that day at 135 pounds.
It's still very hard. It's
hard. It's hard, but people did it, bro. I mean, it's not like people didn't do that shit. Like, they did it, man. They waited.
The nutrition and everything back then too, people were much smaller. It was harder to put on weight. Like,
I don't know about that. I'm not so sure about that. I think the nutrition might have been better back then.
They were smaller people.
Like, what do you mean by that?
The average man's weight was much smaller back then than it is today.
Okay, well, we're not talking about the average man. We're talking about boxers.
It doesn't matter, because boxers still relate to the average man. Like, for instance, people are bigger now. The average the average weight and the heavyweight division is going to be somewhere around 240 pounds now. Whereas back when Ali was fighting, the average weight would have been around 215, 220. They were much smaller back then. George Foreman was considered a fucking monster, and Giant. He was only like 240 pounds. He would be on the smaller side compared to the big guys today.
What about Jess Willard and Primo Carnera?
Those are onesie twosies. They were not the average. They were not the average. What you see now, more or less,
they were both heavyweight champions.
Boxing, right, but they were a rarity by their size.
And they both got beaten by much smaller guys.
That can happen. But you could also make the argument that the only reason why they became champions is because they were born so much bigger than the average dude, so they had a significant advantage. Whereas now
you still gotta have skill.
Most your heavyweight fighters, even the average, if you go with the average, is probably like 6'4". I guarantee you, if we Google the average height of the average heavyweight right now, it's going to be somewhere around 6'4".
Okay.
6'4".
Let's say you took Mike Tyson.
5'11".
Let's say you took Mike Tyson, who's 5, not even. I've stood next to him. Maybe 5'10".
5'11".
5'10".
He was 5'11" in his prime. He's old. He's 5'11". He was 5'11".
Bro, I met the guy. He's short as fuck.
I've met him too. He was,
and
today he's not 5'11". In his prime, he was 5'11". You lose height as you get older.
It doesn't matter. Let's just say he was 5'11". Okay, you put him in there against let's see, what year was it that he was at his best? Let's see, 1987.
Yeah.
Let's say you put him. Let's say you put him in there in 1987 against Magic Johnson. Who do you think would have won
Magic
in a
Johnson,
boxing match?
Magic Johnson's not a fighter,
Right.
but that's not a fair comparison. It would be like
so height and size isn't necessarily the end all be all when it comes to boxing.
no, but knowing how to fight is. That's why there's weight classes in boxing.
Okay, well, let's
Manny
take someone
Pacquiao could probably beat the shit out of Magic Johnson in a boxing ring because Magic Johnson doesn't know how to box. It's not a apples to apples. Any guy who knows how to fight is going to beat a guy who doesn't know how to fight, or he's going to be at a significant advantage. The only thing that'll save a bigger
But the point I'm
person
trying
is
to
the size
make
and weight.
is why did okay, so Jess Willard knew how to fight, right? Obviously, he beat Jack Johnson. So he knew how to fight. Why did he get his ass whipped so bad by Jack Dempsey, who was 5'10"?
What was their weight?
Heavyweight.
Right. What was their weight? Because weight matters.
I think Dempsey was around 180 and Jess Willard was around 200 pounds.
Right.
230 maybe the most.
No, I don't think he was.
I'm guessing because I don't remember exactly.
Right. They were.
I think he was in the 200s.
Right.
He was in the 200s. And Jack Dempsey beat the fucking living shit out of this guy.
The low 200s.
The low 200s, but still, you're talking about a guy who's 6'7", who beat Jack Johnson. And he's getting fucking beaten from pillar to post from this guy who's 5'10", 180.
Okay. And that can happen. But at the end of the day, it's the weight that matters, not the height. You could be short and heavy and still be a threat to a tall dude who's thinner built. It's the
another
weight.
Case.
No, hold on. Let me finish, Pablos. Listen, that is why there are weight classes and not height classes. It's not like a roller coaster ride where you have to be.
Well, there weren't always weight classes either, though.
I mean, if you're going to go way back to what, England?
I'm going to go way
back. Fighting?
No, not street fighting. The heavyweight champion of the world was Daniel Mendoza, who was 5'6", 5'7", weighed maybe 160, and was beating up dudes that were, 200 to 300 pounds.
I'm trying to remember the boxer's name, who was the tallest boxer at his time. He was only like 6'6", 6'7". He was unheard of, unseen. And that is normal now. You have a bunch of guys who are, this is my point. The proof is in the pudding. Like if you go back to like the 60s, the 50s, the 40s, the 30s, the 20s, yes, you could find a guy who's 6'5" plus, but they're rare. They're rare. They rarely exist.
Not that rare.
They're extremely.
They just weren't as good. I think boxing, like if I was building
this is like a medical. You can't argue this fact. Like you can talk to any medical doctor about the history of.
If I was building my ideal, if I was building my ideal heavyweight, he'd be around 6'1", 6'2".
That's not the point. The point is not what your ideal heavyweight is. The point is people are bigger and taller now on average than they were back then. The heavyweight division is gigantic.
People in general, but not boxers.
In boxing,
no,
the greatest fighters of the past were nowhere near.
Who's the best welterweight right now? Who's the biggest name at the welterweight division?
A welterweight is not conducive.
I'm just asking you.
No,
you just said weight classes matter.
I mean, if we're gonna go right, but what you're doing is, I'm saying
who's the biggest name at welterweight?
I'll give you one, but hold on. My statement is people are bigger and taller than they used to be.
But being bigger and taller doesn't necessarily help you.
Welterweight I didn't say it helped you. I'm not arguing whether it helps you or not. All I'm saying is, well, weight helps you because there's weight classes. They found out that bigger men beat littler men. It happens. Manny Pacquiao's not going to get in there with Tyson Fury. He's going to get fucking destroyed.
I don't
don't
know.
care.
I could see Pacquiao winning that.
You're out your mind.
I'm
Pacquiao
just
was
kidding. I'm just kidding.
the reason why he's going to get destroyed is because of the disparity in weight. It's the weight that matters. You put Manny Pacquiao there with Mike Tyson, who's short.
I did see De La Hoya beat the shit out of fucking Shaq, though.
Yeah, a guy who's never fought before.
I bet you they trained him a little bit.
But you're using the Golden Boy, right? De La Hoya, right? However, in that same match, I don't remember if it was Mosley or De La Hoya, Shaq got on his knees and was playing with him.
No, it was probably Mosley.
Then it was Mosley, but Mosley was a world champion too. And he literally got on his knees and started boxing with him because of how big he was. He could absorb the punches. They weren't hurting him.
Yeah. That's why there are weight classes, but the reason why there are weight classes doesn't mean height classes, to go back to your point. So you got a guy like Sugar Ray Leonard who can beat a Hearns.
We went from talking about listen, we went from talking about heavyweights to now being constricted by weight classes. Because if you're going to go to weight classes. No. All I said was weight matters. That's why there are weight classes.
No, exactly.
The whole point of my statement was
classes.
Right.
So I said, but even at weight classes, and to your point, I'm making your point that Sugar Ray Leonard still beat Hearns, and he was way shorter and smaller than Hearns. It's mostly skill and determination.
Until you're Manny Pacquiao at 5'5" and you had to fight 6'9" Tyson Fury.
Against you. Like if you fought me, look.
You're going in and out, Hablo.
I'm taller than you. I'm taller than you. Right?
Hablo, you're going in and out. Hold on, you're going
like 6'1".
Hablo, you're going in and out.
But if you were fighting me, what would you do?
Hablo, if you can hear me, you're going in and out. You're like skipping. I can't hear anything you're saying. I'm catching every other word. Like your reception's going in and out.
You would use your side. I should probably jump in and up with you. Excellent conversation. Thank you for having me on. If you can hear any of this, salute to Tony's reviews, and we will get at it again tomorrow.
I heard the last part of that perfect. So I heard you say salute. We'll talk tomorrow. And before that, you was going in and out. If you can hear me, you was like very choppy, but the last part of that I can hear perfectly. And now he's gone. So yeah, he must have been having bad reception. Yeah, I know there was catch weights back in the day. I just said I personally, to answer respond to what Russ Clark said before I get off. I was saying personally, I do not like catch weights when there's a title on the line. If two guys want to fight, if two champions want to fight and meet at a catch weight, that's fine. But I don't feel like if there's a catch weight, the higher weight class title should be on the line. They should just fight and no belt is won. If the smaller guy wants the title of the bigger guy's title to be on the line, then the bigger guy should be allowed to hit the maximum weight for his weight class, which is what everybody aims for. But anyways, good conversation with Hablo. I don't think I posted his channel, so I'm going to do that before I get off because it is 1 a.m. and I still need to eat. I'm hungry as shit. Let me post Hablo's channel. Don't forget, sub to him. Check him out. Yeah, it's all good, Hablo. Like, I was trying to get to your point. I heard if you, tall, me, 6'1". That's it. Like when you listen to the playback, you'll see that's exactly how it sounded. So I didn't know where it was going. I'm assuming that you said you were taller than me because you're 6'1". I think that's what you were saying, but I couldn't make it out. But 6'1" is really not taller than me. Like I'm 5'11". Like we practically the same height. But anyways, on that note, we're gonna end it here. Don't forget, like I said, you can check out Hablo at this link right here. Good dude. We argue, we agree. But on that note, I'm gonna close the live stream here. Everybody who joined, who listened, thank y'all very much. To the playback, don't forget, hit the thumbs up, sub, and hit that notification bell. And like always, y'all have a good night.